I just want to very quickly brief you on the first assignment. I have already posted it on Google Classroom. Please check it out. What you need to do is take a very simple information graphic. A lot of examples we saw, right? Do not take something that is extremely complex like the New York Times Hurricane Katrina graphic, or do not take anything that is interactive in nature. Okay? Take a simple graphic and then write a critique about them. Okay? What are the things do you think this guy has done really well? What are the things he could have done better? Okay? So, some kind of a critical analysis of what, and I know that we have not learnt a lot about the design principles and more theories on the subject yet, but with whatever you know so far from the first day's lecture, you can write about it. Give me also a good idea about where you guys stand, in terms of appreciating and critically looking at some examples, right? I've also linked you to the previous batch's work in the same assignment brief. So, you can just take a look at what the previous batch guys did for the same assignment. Try to pick examples that are not there already, okay? Fresh examples, more recent examples, more contemporary, more examples from the recent context of something that is happening around us would be interesting, right? So, this is also an idea, an opportunity for us to get exposed to a number of visualizations, a range of visualization in a very short time, okay? So, 30 of you picking 30 examples is like, you get to know about 30 different visualizations in a very short amount of time, okay? Rather than you yourself doing that one by one, okay? So, that is what you want to do. So, I will just give you some idea about what you can possibly do, right, in terms of the critique. So, I am going to critique this example that came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, just at the beginning of the pandemic. You guys must have seen this because this was like virally circulating in WhatsApp images, WhatsApp messages quite a bit, okay. And it's a really bad example of a visualization. This guy's visual capital is continue to do really terrible visualization, and for some reason a lot of people are very impressed with their work. Okay, so what they did in this visualization, that's the link to it. For a higher resolution you can take a look at that. What they did was they wanted to show the various pandemics, the magnitude of the various pandemics, right. So, here you will see, so this is the death toll from the largest to the smallest, okay. So, this is the Black Death or the plague, right, the bubonic plague that claimed 200 million lives, and smallpox, Spanish flu, some plague of Justinian, and there is also the year that is mentioned. So, the bubonic plague was 13th century, 15th century, 19th century, this was 5th century. So, this is HIV AIDS, that is a more recent one. It claimed about 25 million people. This is another plague, and so on and so forth. And coronavirus is somewhere here, I think. This is novel coronavirus, okay, COVID-19. Now, this is not up to date, okay. I think if you go to their website, you will see a more up to date version of that. So, this is at the beginning, okay, just few months into coronavirus, this came out, and therefore, the size is very small. Now, this size must be quite big, and this must have moved up, okay. And then for some reason they did the same display in a perspective like this, okay. So, these are the various thing, and this is the timeline laid out like this. So, these are the more recent ones, okay, swine flu, SARS, Ebola, HIV is here, Asian flu, Hong Kong flu, Spanish flu, and so on, smallpox is here, Black Death is here, far back. Yeah.
COVID is now in the second.
Here in the second row, okay, but it's still not as big as any of this, okay. So, you guys can check it out. Now, there are several things that is wrong, problematic with this visualization, okay. I will tell you what, okay. So, for example, it is not very clear what are we supposed to compare, okay. Is it the length, meaning that the diameter, is it the area, which is the circle, or is it the volume? Okay, why are we thinking even about a volume here? Because it is 3D, it is in perspective, right? So you are kind of now forced to think in 3 dimension, right? So which is the hardest to compare of the 3? Area, volume, length? Volume is the hardest, second hardest is area, and length is the easiest, right? So it turns out that they are using length, okay, but they are using a 3-dimensional object. So again, wrong encoding, the same problem that Florence Nightingale did, right? But so they are representing a linear 1-dimensional data in a 3-dimensional shape. So the encoding is completely wrong, okay? So if, because it is not clear here, one is free to interpret it whichever way they want, okay? I can compare areas, I will just say that this circle is bigger. In fact, somebody mentioned that, some of the circles are same size because you are thinking of areas, right? But it is actually a volume, right, because it is represented volumetrically. Okay, what about the fuzzy edges? Fuzzy edges are always harder to discern than hard edges, right? Because, I mean, anything that has got a fuzzy edges is hard to quantify, okay? Because most things in nature occur with hard edges, okay? And that's how we make the distinction between foreground and background easily. What is the thing? What about color coding? Do they have any meaning here? No meaning, right? So it seems like a very random assignment of color. Again, when you choose very strong colors like that, you are implying a meaning when there is nothing there, okay? Shape encoding, right, I mentioned, right? So is there any semantic encoding, meaning that is there any kind of a encoding that has some meaning towards? So I suppose the fuzzy edges and this blurry, this bar is supposed to represent some virus or something like that, right? And that is why they did that, but unfortunately it is not, okay? And then it suffers from what is called as a Ponzo illusion, right? So the linear perspective that you see on the top, unless the blobs are created inside some strictly observed 3-dimensional model of space, right, then it is not. So what they have done is they have just taken the same size and put it there, okay? And now because there is a perspective, the implied perspective there, our vision automatically attributes certain characteristics to it, okay? So we think that the shapes which are in the front are bigger, are bigger only because they are in the front, not because they are actually bigger. So the ones in the back are smaller because they are at the back, not because they are smaller, okay? So it's very hard to discern the shape if it is presented linearly and compare shapes. So again, completely wrong choice of presentation of perspective here, okay? What about annotations, right? So again, the annotations are not really very helpful if you go through them. Should it be relative to time? Okay, again, this is something that like the example of population maps that we saw. Okay, so how does 1 million now compare to 1 million 200 years ago? It makes a difference, right? Do we need to make that kind of a distinction? Yeah, all right. And then again, at what rate these people are getting killed? Okay, some of this maybe something that rapidly occurs and then it just wipes out a population in a very short time. Something could be persistent for a very, very, very long time, and cumulatively they may add up to a very large number, right? But it might not have affected life as we know. Should it be adjusted for era? That's what we saw. And then again, it's not very clear whether all of them, because 7 of them are caused by bacteria, although the title says that viruses, but not all of them are viruses. Okay, so these are some of the fundamental problems. This is what a critic should look like. Okay, so this is Ponzo illusion. Okay, a good illustration of a Ponzo illusion. So which of the monsters is big here? Yeah. Okay. So it's actually the same size. okay, because of this the illusion that's created by presenting them in a linear perspective scale. It appears that the one in the back why do we think the one in the back is bigger in the first one? Because we inflate the size because we think that it is far away and it should be bigger. Okay. Okay, so this is what you do. Pick up something like this, and then write in point form. These are mostly negative points, but you might come across visualizations that are actually doing something very nice as well. So you can mention them as well. Okay. Why do you think it works? Why do you think it doesn't work? Okay. Any questions? So try to do this by today, so that in tomorrow after the lecture we can discuss this in the afternoon. Okay. So tomorrow morning I will do the second lecture, which is about the visualization typologies, and then after that we can discuss the outcomes of this assignment. So it's something that you have to complete it by today. Okay. So go to Google Classroom. Okay. They have provided a link to the GitHub issue, and then you just make a comment on the issue. Okay. I hope all of you have a GitHub account. If you not, just create one. It's free. If your GitHub ID does not sound like your name at all, okay, make sure that you put your name inside the comment. Okay. Otherwise, it's very hard to recognize who is who.